And now we've reached the section about some general advice when it comes to dealing with Wahhabis. And here we're at one of the most important points, which is judging someone as a kafir, a takfir. The author, may Allah have mercy on him and forgive him and protect him. He said, judging someone as a kafir, takfir. So, calling a person a kafir or attributing a person to blasphemy is called takfir. For those of you who have been studying some Arabic, takfir is a masdar from kaffara, with a shadda on the fa. Kaffara. Kaffara yukaffiru takfira. It means to deem the person a kafir. So without the shadda, it's kafara yakfuru kufran wa kufranan. Without the shadda on the fa, it's kafara yakfuru kufran wa kufranan. So kafara means he blasphemed. Yakfuru means he blasphemes. Kufr is the blasphemy. And kufran also. Kufran, kufr and kufran. But usually they use the word kufran to mean ungratefulness. But technically kufr and kufran mean the same thing. Then if you put a shadda on the middle letter, kaffara, he deemed someone as a blasphemer. Yukaffiru, he deems someone as a kafir. Takfir, takfira, deeming someone as a kafir or judging someone as a kafir. So this is not going to contain all the rules of that. This is just something that has some of those rules mixed with advice of how to deal with people. Do not compromise the validity of your belief because of your kinship or friendship with a Wahhabi. Just as those who are deep into the so-called Salafi cult will shun others very swiftly. Some people refuse to call a person a kafir. They refuse to make takfir, claiming that judging others is forbidden, which is not true. And I wouldn't suggest that you, as Muslims, repeat that statement that people say, don't judge me, and you can't judge me. We do judge by the rules of Allah. Ask the one who claims that judging is forbidden, how do you judge a person who utters the shahada? He would obviously judge such a person as a Muslim. How would he judge the one who cheats, lies, or steals? He would judge that person as a cheater, liar, or thief. Then why would this person refuse to judge the one who blasphemes as a blasphemer? At-Tahawi said, وَلَا نَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ بِكُفْرٍ وَلَا بِشِرْكٍ وَلَا بِنِفَاقٍ مَا لَمْ يَظْهَرْ مِنْهُمْ شَيْءٌ مِّنْ ذَلِكَ. We do not testify about any of them who are believed to be Muslims that they committed blasphemy, shirk, or hypocrisy, as long as nothing of that sort appears from them. Notice what did Imam At-Tahawi say? As long as مَا لَمْ يَظْهَرْ مِنْهُمْ شَيْءٌ مِّنْ ذَلِكَ, as long as nothing of that sort appears from them. He didn't say, we don't judge anyone as a kafir, period. Hypocrisy, yes, I thought that spelled wrong. Thank you. So that's misspelled there. The implication here is that if that does appear from them, then we do judge them as kafir or mushrik or munafiq, hypocrite. If they show goodness, then we treat them as such, meaning people in general. That's how everyone does. If someone shows you goodness, you treat them as such. If they show you wickedness, you treat them as such. That's normal. Do not be reluctant to confirm that someone is a kafir if you witness him uttering blasphemous things. You stand up for what you believe in, you stand your ground. Now, saying don't be reluctant to confirm that, it doesn't mean that you need to tell him in his face, you're a kafir. No. Not being reluctant to confirm that he's a kafir, it means even at the very least for yourself. That if someone in your face likens Allah to the creations explicitly, even if you don't confront that person, in yourself you have to say when that was an explicit statement, that's blasphemy. This person is saying blasphemy. Do not be reluctant to confirm that he is a kafir if you witness him uttering blasphemous things. Just be wise about how you deal with it. This is the creed of the Muslims. Being wise about how you deal with it means maybe you address it on the spot. Maybe you don't address it at all. Maybe you wait after everyone calms down. Maybe waiting is not a good idea. If you don't do it now, you won't be able to do it later. You need to assess your situation. Maybe this person is a complete loser and a butthole, and you're not going to say anything to him at all. And you don't see that there's any point in it whatsoever. Sorry for that. Try not to be a potty mouth. This is the creed of the Muslims, that if someone commits blasphemy, he is judged as a blasphemer. Some people are reluctant to apply the proper rules of takfir because of the hadith, من قال لأخيه يا كافر فقد باء بها أحدهما إن كان كما قال وإلا رجعت عليه. Whoever says to his brother, "O kafir," then one of those two would truly be inflicted with being a kafir. Or more literally, one of those two will go back with that. فَقَدْ بَاءَ بِهَا أَحَدُهُمَا. Then one of the two of them go back with it. مَنْ قَالَ لِأَخِيهِ يَا كَافِرْ. Whoever said to his brother, "O kafir," فَقَدْ بَاءَ بِهَا أَحَدُهُمَا. أي فَقَدْ رَجَعَ. Then one of the two of them went back with the judgment of being a kafir. إِنْ كَانَ كَمَا قَالَ وَإِلَّا رَجَعَتْ عَلَيْهِ. Either it is as he said, or else it comes back to him. So this hadith, some people justify their lack of action by this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This means that if a person calls someone else a kafir, then he had better be correct. Or else he will become a kafir for labeling a Muslim with kufr without evidence. It means that if the person is correct in calling another person a kafir, then it is as he said. That person is a kafir. But if he is incorrect, then that judgment of kufr comes back to him and he falls into kufr. Here, we need to pause just to understand something going on here in this hadith. Whoever says to his brother, "O kafir," then one of the two of them is truly inflicted with being a kafir. Either it is as he said or else it comes back to him. But what this means is whoever calls his brother a kafir without any evidence and even without any misunderstanding, without any evidence to do so, and not even with any misunderstanding. That's what this hadith is saying. This hadith doesn't include the one who, for example, he thought that a major sin is blasphemy. So when a Muslim committed a major sin, he thought that Muslim was a kafir, so he called him a kafir. He thought drinking wine or committing suicide was blasphemy. So when he knew about a Muslim who did that, then he called him a kafir. He made takfir on him. Here, we teach him. We don't say you committed blasphemy for calling that Muslim a blasphemer. Why? Because in this case, he has a misunderstanding, a misconception, that he thinks that a major sin is blasphemy, and then he knew a Muslim who did that. So in this case, he needs to be taught, and he would be forbidden from calling a Muslim a kafir because of committing a major sin. Another example is like when someone calls a Muslim a kafir, meaning that he acts like a kafir, that his behavior is despicable. So in this case, although he named him a kafir or described him as a kafir, he doesn't blaspheme because what he meant was, you act like a kafir. That's haram though. And also the first case is haram. Believing that a major sin is blasphemy, that's haram. And insulting a Muslim by calling him a kafir with the meaning that he acts like a kafir, that's haram, major sin. It's not blasphemy. So this hadith, it doesn't include those two cases. Whoever says to his brother, "O kafir," then one of the two of them returns with the judgment of being a kafir. This hadith is about the one who called the Muslim a real kafir, not that he acts like a kafir. He called him a real kafir without having a misunderstanding. For example, two Muslims were in an argument, and one of them was so angry with the other, he told him, "You kafir, get away from me." He didn't mean you act like a kafir. He meant he just wanted to insult him with the biggest insult he could think of. So he called him a kafir, a real kafir. So that's blasphemy. So this means that if someone calls someone else a kafir, then he had better be correct, or else he will become a kafir for labeling a Muslim with kufr without evidence. It means that if the person is correct in calling another person a kafir, then it is as he said. That's what the hadith says. That person is a kafir. In kana kama qal, either it is as he said, wa illa raja'at alayh, or else it comes back on him. But if he is incorrect, then that judgment of kufr comes back to him and he falls into kufr. The Prophet ﷺ did not say that it cannot be known if a person committed kufr or not. He did not say that it is not permissible to judge a person as a kafir unless that person testifies for himself that he is a kafir. Nor is it mentioned by the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah that a layman Muslim cannot know how to identify blasphemy. All of these are things that people who don't want to get involved in takfir, in the arena of takfir, these are some of the excuses that they produce. They say, you can't know if a person committed kufr. Or, you can't judge a person as a kafir unless he intentionally leaves Islam and changes his religion and testifies for himself that he's a kafir. Or, you're not a scholar. You can't identify blasphemy. None of that is the case. The one who learns is able to. It's a very simple matter. In fact, it's among the basics. That's what some people don't understand. Don't you know that blasphemy is the opposite of belief? And in as much as we are obligated to learn the belief well, we need to learn the rules of blasphemy clearly and very well, to know the difference between what's blasphemy and what's not blasphemy. And we learn the belief so we know the difference between what's belief and what's not belief. The person who says these things, who gives these excuses for why he shouldn't deem blasphemy as blasphemy and deem the person who commits blasphemy as a blasphemer, he's a person who speaks from his own opinions about the rules of Allah. Another thing some people say is, yeah, that's blasphemy, but you can't say he's a blasphemer. You can say his action is blasphemy, but you can't say he's a kafir who went out of Islam. So how did they put those two together? Allahu a'lam. Allah knows. In fact, Allah told us, يَحْلِفُونَ بِاللَّهِ مَا قَالُوا وَلَقَدْ قَالُوا كَلِمَةَ الْكُفْرِ وَكَفَرُوا بَعْدَ إِسْلَامِهِمْ. They swear by God that they did not say it. And by God, they actually did say the word of blasphemy and outwardly blasphemed after being judged with Islam. If you want to translate it literally, they swear by Allah that they didn't say it. And by God, they said the word of blasphemy and they blasphemed after their Islam. If a person commits kufr, he is a kafir, with no doubt about it. Just like if a person embraces Islam, he's a Muslim. Those people don't have a really strong argument about this. Really, it's an emotional game and stubbornness. If he says, well, that's kufr, but you can't call him a kafir, So you say to him, so if a person say the Shahada, you can say he's not a Muslim, and then who knows where that conversation will take you. But he's stubborn, so he's not going to submit, even though he understands. He knows exactly what you're saying. It's clear. If a person commits kufr, he is a kafir, with no doubt about it. So, if someone knows a person who committed kufr, but still treats him as a Muslim, makes him believe that he is still a Muslim, then that someone fell into kufr himself. So all this talk is out of fear for the one who's in close touch with some Wahhabis. He knows their belief is blasphemy. So what is he going to do? What if that's his family? What if he's in the very house with them? Or he works with them, or he goes to school with them, or he's in any close quarters with them, and they're Wahhabis. And he knows that this is blasphemy. What is he going to do? Capitulate? Ignore the fact? Still treat him as a Muslim, give him salam, give him dates to break his fast, give him the prayer carpet, everything. Treat him just like he's a Muslim, even if in his heart he really says, well, he committed blasphemy, but he just does all these things. He's still treating him like a Muslim, making him think he's a Muslim. That's blasphemy in itself. He says, so just to be clear, if you know a person is a Wahhabi and you give them salam, do you blaspheme? Well, remember something that we mentioned before, which is an important rule to remember. Every individual is judged based on his own merit. If someone identifies as a Salafi or a Wahhabi, you don't call him a kafir just based on that. If he says, I follow Ibn Taymiyyah, Uthaymeen, and Fulan, Fawzan, and all those people, that is not enough to call him a kafir. So, we're talking about a person who commits blasphemy. You know he's a kafir. He committed blasphemy. You witnessed the blasphemy. And then you treat him like a Muslim. You make him think he's a Muslim. You make him think he's a Muslim while you know he's not a Muslim because he just blasphemed. That's blasphemy. And that goes for any other faction. Just because a person affiliates with a group of misguidance, that individual, we don't judge him as a kafir if he identifies as a Muslim unless we witness the blasphemy from him. Kufr is a great reality that many people unknowingly fall into every day. Learning about it is an obligation. Kufr is the sin that will put a person in hellfire forever if he dies without clearing himself from it. If someone says, this verse you just quoted was revealed about the hypocrites who used to pretend to be Muslims, so it does not pertain to the Muslims. You are using this verse out of its context. You are applying a verse that was revealed about the hypocrites to the Muslims. You have no right to do so. Respond by saying, before it became clear that those people were hypocrites, how were they treated? As Muslims or not? Ask him that question, and then you'll see how honest he is if he answers your question directly or not. Oh, well, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't answer the question. Before it became clear that those people were hypocrites, how were they treated? As Muslims or not? Indeed, they were treated according to what they showed outwardly, as we have already stated. As Muslims, even though they weren't Muslims, because they were hypocrites in their belief, pretending only. But the Muslims don't know what's in their hearts, so they treated them according to what they displayed. Therefore, any person who outwardly shows Islam and then shows blasphemy is judged as a blasphemer, hypocrite or not. Meaning, the ayah, yes, the ayah was revealed about the hypocrites. But if you understand the rule that's happening here, then you know that it's not restricted to the hypocrites. It was revealed about them, but it's not restricted to them. Because their situation is that, okay, they weren't Muslims. True. But the Muslims didn't know that. So the Muslims, not knowing that those hypocrites weren't Muslims, how were they obligated to treat those hypocrites? They were obligated to treat them as Muslims. And they did so. So that means they're treating them as Muslims. They don't know they're hypocrites. It's not our job to decide whether the person was a hypocrite or not. And then those hypocrites, what did they do? Then they committed blasphemy outwardly. They displayed the blasphemy outwardly. So once they displayed it outwardly, then what was it upon the Muslims to do? To judge them accordingly. Those people that they thought were Muslims committed blasphemy outwardly, so they didn't judge them as Muslims anymore. It's the same thing. I think the point is clear. The reason we just talked about all of this judging someone as a kafir, because we said in our many lessons so far in this topic that likening Allah to the creations is blasphemy. Believing that Allah is in a place or a direction is blasphemy and disbelief. Whoever believes that about Allah is not a Muslim, even if he has an Arabic name, even if he has a beard, even if he has a long shirt, even if it's a woman with niqab on her face, etc. Long black gown, all of that is not what makes the person a Muslim. Even if there's a big, massive prostration mark on his head, all of that doesn't make him a Muslim. So, having the correct intention. Among the most important things to be mindful of is having the correct intention. Let the one who debates with deviant people keep the pure intention. Do not debate with the mere intention of arguing, nor just to show that you are right and the other person is wrong, or to show off your knowledge. So, do not debate with the mere intention of arguing, just to get the last word. If your goal is to get the last word, stop talking. Nor just to show that you are right and the other person is wrong, like just to break him. Or to show off your knowledge. Instead, debate with the intention to show the truth. Our Prophet ﷺ did not debate unless it was to show the truth, nor did he ever lose a debate. Imam Ash-Shafi'i never debated with someone unless it was to show the truth. Among what was reported about him is that he said, I never debated with someone except that I didn't care whether the truth appeared on my tongue or his tongue. I didn't care whether the truth appeared on my tongue or his tongue. And also among what was reported from Ash-Shafi'i is that he said, I never debated with a person except that I was hopeful that he would be guided to what is correct. Some people in the heat of the debate, what would they like to see in the end? They would like to see their opponent crushed and broken and sad and humiliated. Well, the goal should be that he becomes a Muslim if he's a kafir, or that he retracts his mistake, whatever it might be, whether it's blasphemy or less than blasphemy. Where are we here? So if you believe that the deviant person will not accept what you are saying and will only continue committing blasphemy, then it is not permissible to keep debating with him. Meaning, it's not permissible for you to do what encourages his blasphemy. If there's a certain point, once you reach the point where you believe that his goal is to contradict you, that's it. Whatever you say, he's going to contradict you. Then don't say anything to him. There's no benefit anymore. If you believe he will not listen, but you need to protect the people who are around and to show the truth to those who are listening, you can direct your speech to them and clarify for them what needs to be clarified. Like you're debating with a fool. There's no point in going further with him anymore. You're convinced that there's no benefit in talking to this guy anymore, but there's people around listening to you. So what do? You don't want to just leave and let it look like he beat you, or just leave so that he can talk to them and misguide them. So stop talking to him and talk to them and say, listen, people, the rule is like this and this and this and this and this. He's wrong because he said this and this and this. If you believe he will not listen, but you need to protect the people who are around, and to show the truth to those who are listening, you can direct your speech to them and clarify for them what needs to be clarified. Do not leave him to talk to the people and spread his blasphemy among them if you are able to protect them from him. If you are around people who want to hear what he has to say, then that's a whole different situation. Once a brother asked me to come to his center. He said, I'm from such and such community, and I want you to come with me because there's a person who's coming to teach my community, and I believe this man is misguided, and I fear for the people in my community. I want you to come and refute this guy. So I went. He definitely was a misguided person, definitely. The problem was that his audience wanted what he had to say. So there was no point, according to my assessment, there was no point in me trying to refute this man, because there was no one who wanted to listen to what I had to say as far as I could tell. So in that case, all I could do was leave, unfortunately. Refrain from purposely leading a person to say kufr, blasphemy. Also, refrain from asking questions that lead the deviant person to commit kufr. For instance, do not ask a Wahhabi, do you believe that Allah has a real face? Or do you believe that Allah is in a place above his arsh? The Wahhabi will predictably answer yes to those questions and then commit blasphemy as a result of that answer, because he is admitting that he believes in blasphemy. If you provoke, lead, cause, or make someone commit blasphemy, you will fall into it yourself. The evidence that this is forbidden is the verse, وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Do not assist each other in sins and transgression, or in other words, do not cooperate in sins and transgression. If Allah forbade us from assisting in sins, then more so it is forbidden to assist in the worst of sins, which is blasphemy. Shaykh Abdullah rahimahullah, he has talked about this case extensively in one of his books, mashallah. Because some people who are thought to be sheikhs and who are thought to be people of knowledge, they said that this ayah does not include helping a person commit blasphemy. And that's a very strange thing to say. According to some people, for example, the Muslim man can take his Christian wife to church, to worship, not, to pick up her hat that she left there, to worship, to commit shirk. According to them, it's permissible for him. Or his parents, he can take them to the church to worship other than Allah. They don't see that falls under this prohibition in the ayah. وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Do not cooperate in sin and transgression. Don't help anyone commit a sin. And blasphemy is the worst sin. If Allah forbade us from assisting in sins, then more so it is forbidden to assist in the worst of sins, which is blasphemy. Some people, when you give them this ayah, they say, it doesn't say anything about blasphemy. Show me an ayah that says you can't ask a person a question that makes them say blasphemy. That's a stubbornness. The author said, this is a grave mistake made by many debaters. Intending to make their opponents commit to bad sayings, they want to make them commit so they can come back and refute them. They purposely make their opponents utter blasphemous words. Ahmad Didat did that. If you watch some of his debates, he'll ask the Christian, or read some of his debates, he'll ask the Christian a question that's plain blasphemy. He says to him, do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God? Knowing that he believes that Jesus is the Son of God. His goal in asking him was so that that person will commit and say, yes, I do. And then he will come back and refute him. You can't do that. So this is a grave mistake made by many debaters. Intending to make their opponents commit to bad sayings, They purposely make their opponents utter blasphemous words. Yes, it is done to expose the contradictions and inconsistencies. That's the reason why someone would do that. But sadly, these people fall into blasphemy while wanting to do something good, meaning the harm that they got out of such a strategy is far more than the benefit. As such, if you talk to a Christian, do not ask, do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God? Do not ask the atheist, do you deny the existence of God? When these people answer yes to these questions, which would be the expected answer, then the one who posed the question also blasphemes. In fact, if he poses such a question expecting such an answer, he blasphemes even if the other does not answer, even if he doesn't answer. Because he basically said to him, hey, commit blasphemy. That's blasphemy. Even if the person doesn't respond, he still committed blasphemy. Whoever tempts, prompts, or encourages a blasphemer to confess to his blasphemy also falls into blasphemy. This is what we have learned from the route of our Shaykh. Some people are denying this to be true. That's their problem. We don't agree with that. It's very clear for us that helping a person to sin is a sin. Helping a person to commit blasphemy is blasphemy. Avoiding this sin requires you to be clever, quick, and thoughtful. Meaning, if you want to debate with a person in these religious issues, you need to be clever. You need to be strategic. The one who is able to refute a deviant person without asking him such questions is much more effective and skilled than someone who cannot do that. If the only way you can debate with that person is to make him commit blasphemy so that he can commit to the saying of blasphemy and then come back and refute the blasphemy, then that's your deficiency. Moreover, the one who can go around that, he is safe by protecting himself from blasphemy. And in my experience, really, you don't really need to know what's that person's religion. Yes, it helps if you know what his religion is so that you can direct your statements a little bit better. You can have more focused statements if you know what his religion is exactly. Yes, it's true. But if you have sufficient knowledge of religious belief, Islamic belief, and you have sufficient proofs, and you have sufficient strategies for debate, you don't really need to know what that person's religion is. Because what matters is that he accepts our religion, that we tell him what's the truth and we convince him to the truth. No matter what is the religion of the person I'm talking to, I'm going to tell him about the Tawheed. I'm going to refute anything that's against the Tawheed. When I explain to him that Allah doesn't resemble the creation, right there, I'm going to refute Wahhabis, I'm going to refute Christians, I'm going to refute Hindus, I'm going to refute all of them. So I don't have to know what his religion is. When I want to confirm for that person the oneness of God, I'm going to tell him what we believe with our proofs. Whatever his religion is, it doesn't matter. The evidence that the one who encourages another to blaspheme shares their sin of blasphemy is the hadith that in reference to wine, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam damned whoever squeezes the grapes, whoever drinks the wine, whoever delivers it, the one to whom it is delivered, whoever pours it, whoever sells it, whoever consumes its price, whoever buys it, and he for whom it is purchased. They all share in the sin because they all had a hand in it. There are similar narrations about the people who participate in usurious gain, in riba, the one who writes it, the one who witnesses it, the one who gives it, the one who takes it, etc. They're all responsible for the sin. They all had a hand in it. So what if someone said, well, that's about riba and wine? Well, he's being stubborn and or he's ignorant also, because it's easy to see that it's not because it's wine or riba. That's not the reason for the judgment. It's not the reason. The reason for the judgment is that they shared in the deed. They all had a hand in it. They cooperated in it, so they shared in it. That's the reason why he said it about wine, and he said the same thing about riba. It's not because it's wine and because it's riba, it's because they shared in the sin. So whenever that's true of any sin, then that's what the case is. Furthermore, the scholars of the four schools, as well as other schools, have confirmed and agreed that it is blasphemous to knowingly aid any person in committing blasphemy. Typo there. So fear Allah and do not think that this matter is light or less than blasphemy. The one who engages in a debate must learn the proofs and strategies explained by the scholars, learn the Islamic rules pertaining to debate, and avoid sinful matters such as missing the prayers and asking blasphemous questions. Missing the prayers because sometimes a person is so engaged in the debate that he lets the prayer time go out. While he remembers, he just doesn't want to stop his debate. He has to stop and go pray. That's it.